everybody. Happy Sunday morning. I'm out here with the Missy Jen, and we are on a mission today, a mission of fun. And we're going to do a little day trip down here, a few hours down in the lovely Sonoma County, southern Sonoma County town of Petaluma. Those of you who have been on my channel for 2.5 years, and there's a few of you, will go back in history and see one of the earliest trips that I took. The earliest trip was with Bobby under day tripping, and we went to the little town of Petaluma. And Petaluma is about 15 miles south of us in Santa Rosa and about 30 miles north of San Francisco up Highway 1L1. You know, Petaluma is an interesting town, but unfortunately it's always going to be forever linked with tragedy. And of course the tragedy was the murder of young Polly Klaas, K-L-A-A-S, on October 1st, 1993 by Richard Davis, a two-time convicted criminal and unrecalcitrant and unrepentant murderer, who at the time of the trial unceremoniously gave the finger to the media. And in addition to that, he made sure that he announced that after sentencing, that the last words that Polly Klaas uttered before her death at his hands were that Polly Klaas said her father was a child molester. So that's what kind of scumbag you were dealing with. Anyway, on October 1st, 1993, she was having a sleepover in her bedroom in Petaluma, and Richard Davis crawled through the window and kidnapped her and took her out and murdered her. And the biggest manhunt in Sonoma County took place, as over 500 people and volunteers participated in combing all of the surroundings from Cloverdale in the North County all the way down to San Francisco, and finally her body was recovered. He was put on trial, convicted, and remains on death row in San Quentin near San Francisco, where all of California's death row inmates sit. Other illustrious ones: Charles Manson, Scott Peterson, who murdered his wife and unborn baby on Christmas Eve in the early to mid 2000s. So you have a real crew down there. But anyway, the good that came out of that was, of course, the Polly Klaas Foundation was begun, which is for missing children. And in addition to that, the outspring of that was Megan's Law, identifying and helping to immediately put out the word if a child has been the Amber Alerts, the registry for sex offenders. A lot of good things came out of that. And in addition, the 3 strikes laws came in, whereupon if you were convicted for a third time, then you were life imprisonment with no possibility of parole. On the upside, Petaluma is a beautiful town. It sits on the Petaluma River, which was the transportation link going all the way down to San Francisco Bay. And at one time, Petaluma was the egg capital of the West, with the highest egg production of any place out west. And there were all kinds of hatcheries and breederys, and just chicken remains a very big industry out here with the Rocky, who's the Petaluma Poultry Company's organic chicken. And what it really is today is one incredibly beautiful town that managed miraculously to survive a lot of the 1906 earthquake, with its cast iron building fronts in the commercial area still relatively intact, which is pretty amazing when you think of how devastated Santa Rosa was, 15 miles to the north of Petaluma. So we're going to be riding down the road here. I'll give you a little bit of the view of the countryside, and we'll stop at one really cool site along the way and talk about a little Civil War history. Yes, Civil War history out here in Northern California. So Missy Jen at the wheel. Excited today to be out of home, a little bit excited that all of our big projects are basically done. what's distinctive about this place is it was built in 1859 as a roadside tavern coming up from San Francisco. Well, this was the road that you would come up, one of the roads that you would come up to get up to Oregon. And at that time, of course, it was pre-Washington State, but this is where you would stop. And what's interesting about this place is some of the history associated with this house. And this is about 5 miles outside of Petaluma. And one of the cool things, and it even has a historical marker with it, was one of the cool things about this place is during the Civil War, the town of Petaluma was very northern in its sympathies, while the town of Santa Rosa was very southern in its sympathies. So the editorials of each newspapers, the Santa Rosa Press Democrat and the Petaluma with Argus, they would argue with each other during the war. Well, one time the citizens of Petaluma got so riled up that they decided to hit the road, a big band of guys, big, you know, maybe 25, 50, 100 people, and they were going to come up and just raid the town of Santa Rosa and just teach them a lesson. Well, somebody rode up on horseback to the city of Santa Rosa, and they warned them that the people were coming from Petaluma. So they started gathering and getting on their horses and coming down to meet the forces from Petaluma. Well, they met right here at the Washoe House, which is like the halfway point between Santa Rosa and Petaluma. And as a result of that, they got together and they met each other, and everybody was afraid there was going to be a huge fight and a lot of blood. What actually happened was they said, you know, what the hell are we fighting about? We're in California, guys. You know, we're 3,000 miles from the war. So they ended up shaking hands and getting drunk for the afternoon. So that's the Battle of Washoe House out here in California. So just a little bit of cool history on the way down to Petaluma. Okay, guys, we are in downtown Petaluma, right on a promontory park over here, Penn Park, and you can see across the street here. This is Petaluma Boulevard. The most distinctive feature here is probably the grain mill, which is about 10 stories high there, and it dominates the skyline in Petaluma, and is still a fully functional feed mill for all the poultry production here in the area. This is a beautiful park. It's a very old park. Jen and I had a little bit of success coin hunting here back in January or so. You can see some of the beautiful homes that line the streets here. As we walk over here, you can see some of the fancy bars and the good time places. There's a lot of great food, a lot of great eateries here, and there's always young people starting new places up. You have the billiards place there, over there, and if you look over here, if we go over to this side, you have a really beautiful view of downtown. Over here, just lovely. Such a beautiful day. We got to Missy Jen doing her own history tour. You can see some of these Victorians. Make a right. Yep, we're rolling through downtown, and we'll make our second left. Or our first left. So.
Well, we need to go one more.
Okay. Would be ideal, but this goof's kind of got you blocked up with his pop-ups, so maybe we'll go one more up here if you can.
We will, because the goofs are not letting you in.
Yeah, so we can turn left here. We're going to go down to where, we're now going to go down to St. Vincent's Church here.
Bunch of goofs.
Go straight here. And we're going going through the commercial district down here now. And this is a successful, thriving little town here. And if you like Victorians, old Victorians, this is really the place for you. So you can see the steeple of St. Vincent's Church, which is in the mission style. And we'll get a closer look at that in a minute. This is St. Vincent's Church behind me, and you can see how totally beautiful it is with its Spanish mission style, which is very, very typical of churches in California that were built in the early 1900s. And I imagine this was built around 1928 or so, and it's part of a very thriving Catholic community. In fact, when I first moved to the area here in mid-1990s, this is where, well, not the telephone pole, but this is where my family, we went to church here. And one of the greatest experiences that I had just in being part of this community. So we'll go take a closer look over here. They have the little plaza here. And they have a Spanish Mass on Sundays, Spanish language. And you can see everybody set up outside here for vending. And yeah, St. Vincent de Paul. This was actually founded in 1857, the parish. And this was erected in 1926. And you can see what an amazingly, strikingly beautiful church this is. I'll just poke my head inside here. Maybe service is going on. You can see you've never seen this kind of detail in this work these days.
Señor Dios nuestro, atiende nuestras súplicas, que tu palabra nos convierta, nos libere, nos cure, por Jesucristo nuestro Señor. Hay una segunda comida.
Jen and I are blessed in so many ways that we live in a very multicultural environment where most everybody up here has come from somewhere else. There's very few what we would call original Californians here. So I've said it before that nobody feels like they really have a hammerlock on being like the original people here. It might look down on other people and not make them feel welcome. And we enjoy all the diversity, all the different restaurants, all the amazing things that we can do out here in California. And most of all, we really love the beautiful weather and the beautiful people out here. So there's Missy Jen having her look. So I think you would agree this is just far and away, and the color schemes and the painting and just the beauty of this makes it a must-see in the city of Petaluma.